In an effort to bend the rules and show that it is possible, I decided to string together several days worth of unique exercises and techniques to grow the girth of my genetically predispositioned skinny wrists so they would become thicker and stronger than ever before. On top of this, breaking through new barriers of grip, endurance, and strength, this is my 1 week journey growing my wrists. But you gotta focus. So if you haven't seen it already, my video, how I grew my wrists bigger, is doing pretty well, and thus it generated a lot of talk. Now there are a lot of skeptics thinking it's still impossible to get your wrists to grow in girth. It's good to be skeptical, that's how you get to the bottom of stuff, but with that being said, I want to show the skeptics that it is possible. So for this next week, I'm going to be taking those simple techniques I have used to help my wrists increase in size, and I'm going to be amping it up a little bit to hopefully grow my wrists even thicker. Right now, right wrist is 17 centimeters around approximately, left is 17.5. I'm gonna shoot for the stars. In 1 week, I am going for an 18-inch girth. Bigger wrists in only 1 week. Let's get it done. So after a simple but intense upper body calisthenics workout, I jumped into some specific wrist training that from my experience has already helped me grow my wrists thicker and stronger than ever before. But because we're trying to take it to the next level, we would amp it up a bit. But first, before we get into the thick wrist workout, I want to give a grateful shout out to today's video sponsor, AG1 by Athletic Greens. So I have been drinking AG1 when I break my fast on a daily basis for a little over a week now, and I have to say I absolutely love this product. Literally since the first scoop, I've noticed an increase in mental clarity as well as a sustained better energy throughout the entire day. And that's probably not only because this thing is jam-packed with vitamins and minerals, but it also contains adaptogenic herbs such as ashwagandha, rhodiola, amongst others. The taste is exceptionally mild. The texture is surprisingly smooth. Oh, and AG1 also includes vegan probiotics for supporting that gut health. Just one scoop only takes about a minute once a day. And when you're done, you seal up this nice airtight container and you pop it back in the fridge. Because AG1 does not have any artificial preservatives, heck, no artificial colors, sweeteners, etc. If you're interested in getting yourself some AG1 and you would like to use my link, they will throw in a year's supply of immune supporting vitamin D and K2 as well as 5 travel packs of AG1 absolutely free with your first purchase. I want to give a huge shout out to AG1 for providing me with this product and sponsoring this video. With that being said, let's get into the thick wrist workout. So for clarity, over the last year, I have noticed my wrist girth has already increased in size by incorporating this dead hang drop set at the end of my workouts around 2 to 3 times a week. You want to hang with these holds, but you don't want to do so, willy-nilly. You want to squeeze that pull. So the protocol is simple. You hang for as long as you can, and then you rest for as long as you just held. And you do this 5 times. 101 seconds. Look at this, just hear me out though. Naysayers out there, look at the wrist, it is pumped. Do you see that? The wrist is pumped. So really focusing on gripping the bar as hard as I could, not cheating with a hook grip or wrapping the thumb around the fingers or anything like that. And as you can guess, hang times got significantly less and less towards the last set. Come on, woo! Alright guys, it's time to bust out the tree branch grips for the next drop set. Probably gonna be pretty weak because my grip is fatigued, but we need to stimulate that wrist, so let's give it the best effort we can. Because my wrists have already been stimulated over the past year by doing these hanging drop sets at the end of my workouts 2 to 3 times a week, in order for me to get my wrists to grow even thicker, my idea was to add additional volume and new techniques into my wrist girth training. And the first additional technique to the regular bar hanging was using the tree branch grips, holding as long as possible. 25 seconds, that's not that much. Because of the fatigue from the 5 drop sets we already did, as well as the tree branch grips being thicker, I decided to increase my rest time to approximately 2 minutes between each max hang on the tree branch grips. And then towards the final sets, because my grip was getting so fried, I used a resistance band to help take some weight off so that I could increase time under tension with my grip, thus hopefully further stimulating the fascia around the wrists. Whoa, frick! Man, look at how well it hits the hand. We're simultaneously bigger hand training while bigger wrist training. Some of the exercises overlap. Keep that in mind. Finishing up with 3 burnout sets, doing lightweight deadlift holds with the tree branch grips. Forearm pump is insane. My wrists definitely feel stimulated right now. That's it for day 1. I don't want to do too much because tomorrow we're going to hit it again, okay? We're going to be hitting the wrists again. We're going to do similar stuff, just push a little bit more, try to get that hypertrophy. I can tell we're off to a good start. With that being said, we're going to get some good nutrition in, and I will see you guys tomorrow. On day 2, following a lower body calisthenics and plyometrics workout, I finished with some wide wrist training. This time starting with 5 drop sets of max hang time using the tree branch grips, resting 2 minutes in between each set, followed by tree huggers for maximum hang time. There seems to be something about flexing the wrist slightly while working on grip endurance that helps target the fascia around the wrists, or at least it provided me with a wrist pump, and because doing tree huggers required the wrist to be held in this slightly flexed position, I felt like it was a perfect exercise for potentially helping increase wrist girth. Now, because I was doing a lot of exercises that were demanding of wrist flexion, I decided to balance it out with some wrist extension with lightweight 25 reps for 3 total sets. And now after doing this, not only did I feel like these wrist extension exercises would help prevent imbalanced injuries, but it did appear like my wrist did get an additional pump from doing these. Something very important I want to make clear is training smartly, all right? We're not trying to just like beat the wrist down to the ground every single day. We need to have some rest days in here so we can rest and recover so we don't get any overuse injuries. Now, if I'm thinking specifically overuse injuries regarding the wrist, it could be anything from tendonitis, carpal tunnel syndrome, other types of overuse inflammation, problems arising from just, beating down the wrist. But then again, you can get injured with overuse injuries from doing a variety of things too frequently, too often, when you're tired, etc. So we are trying to stimulate, not annihilate the wrist. With that being said, it's a rest day today. We're taking the day off. We're just doing some ice dunks. We're gonna take it easy. We're gonna get some good nutrition in, and I will see you guys all tomorrow when we continue wrist training on day 4. So close, man. Just a little bit more. After the rest day on day 4, I started my wide wrist training session with the max hang drop set. To my pleasant surprise, my first max hang was a new PR at my current body weight of 193 pounds, a 111 second hold. 111 seconds. It appeared to me like I was making some significant progress, at least in the grip endurance. But also looking at my wrists after the pump, they were starting to look pretty darn wide. Continuing with once again doing the tree branch grips for a drop set of 5 max time. And then once again, to be sure we're balancing the wrists and forearms out with some extension, doing some reversed wrist curls, but using the tree branch grips. 25 reps, nice, slow and controlled, each hand, 3 total sets. So the next day we tried to push for a max hang time as well. However, due to the lingering fatigue from the previous day, max hang performance seemed to be cut short at around 90 to 95 seconds. But with good energy and no signs of any potential injury, I decided to push through with the entire wider wrist workout this day. On top of doing the standard max hang drop set, I strapped the tree branch grips around some kettlebells and did 5 sets of max hold, resting approximately 1 to 2 minutes in between each set. In addition, once again to help balance out the wrist, I decided to throw in a few sets of these wind-ups, or whatever you want to call them, to target that wrist extension. On day 6, I decided to take a rest day to hopefully be able to push it to the max on day 7, and on day 7 to hopefully push the wrist girth to the max, as well as experiment with some new techniques. I decided to do a freestyle of what I hope to be wrist girth stimulating exercises, starting with some tire flips. Now, rather than picking up the tire where it angles and you can get a good grip, I decided to go for the more gradual angle of the tire, where you would actually have to curve the wrist more around the tire in order to get a good grip, i.e. making it harder, and my idea was maybe stimulating the wrists more. Now, you must know doing lifts like this can actually increase the risks for injuries, specifically in the bicep tendon, but I had this in mind, and as a trained semi-professional, I was sure to listen to my body in order to prevent any of those injuries. After 20 tire flips with an additional 100 push-ups, I traveled to a close by calisthenics setup where I did some hangs for time, but this time on some rings. 106 seconds. With the wrists and forearms looking thick and pumped, I continued with the 5 drop sets of max hangs, also messing around with the ring placement a little bit. This one gave me a crazy good stretch, as well as challenge the grip. And then finding some nearby rocks, I decided to do what I like to call rock climber holds, but with my hypothesis to help specifically target the wrist girth, I wanted to be sure there were no aggressive edges, so that in order for me to get a grip, I would have to flex the fingers and the wrists all together, similar to how we made it more challenging with the tire flips. And finally finishing up with 3 sets, reverse wrist curls, 25 reps, each hand. With the addition of this volume and intensity of these, what I claim to be wrist stimulating exercises actually caused my wrists to grow. Let's find out with the results.
That was brutal. Did we get any measurable results? Did the wrists actually get wider in only 1 week? Well, I was shooting for the stars, ladies and gentlemen, and it looks like I may have hit the stars. Looking at the measurements of my right wrist before, beneath this little lump at the smallest point, it was approximately 17 centimeters. Now, 1 week later, after doing all of these different exercises, my wrist was measuring in at a nice 17.5 centimeters. And the goal, I know it wasn't for both, but for my left wrist, we measured in at a nice tight 18 centimeters. So in only 1 week, we put on a ½ centimeter to each wrist. Now, not only that, but I have noticed ever since doing the bigger hand training video that my grip endurance and strength has gone up significantly. For instance, just at the beginning of this experiment, I held for 101 seconds in the basement on the spinny bar. That is a new PR for me, and by the end of this experiment, doing all of these other exercises, I increased that time to approximately 110 seconds. 110. Now, I wasn't able to close the 2 yet on Captain's a Crush, so I'm still going to be working on that one, but I can hold the 1.5 shut. I know, it's like SpongeBob saying, yeah, I only cried for 5 minutes. I can hold the 1.5 shut, I feel like indefinitely, but for like 10 seconds or so, you know what I'm saying? I feel very confident with the 1.5. Before it was like, okay, I got it, you know. With that being said, I do think it's diminishing returns. I don't know if I did this for another week. I don't think I could push out another ½ centimeter and just keep it going. Maybe it would probably stabilize around this, because I just want to be honest with you guys right now. It has been approximately a week since I filmed that video. I haven't really been maintaining this wider wrist training, and it seems like my wrists are kind of going back in the direction to where they were before this experiment. So I think it is just like those other things of fitness, you know, you have to maintain it to keep it, etc., etc. Now, with that being said, I want to cover a very important point from this video. Before you go out and just start like just doing all these exercises so much, you got to keep in mind that I already came from wider wrist training coming into this, right? First incorporated in the bigger hand training video, you know, doing this for a few weeks now, and then as well as just doing these wider wrist drop sets just from hanging, you know, doing the 5 drop sets at the end of workouts 2 to 3 times a week, I kind of already built up some strength, some resistance there. You know, if you just jumped into all these exercises I just did throughout this last week with no prior like wrist training, let's just say, you know, it's possible that there could be some potential wrist irritation going on, you know, some overuse. Now, also very important you need to know is I did take rest days here. I made that apparent when I said, you know, I'm taking a rest day in this video, but I think that's extremely important. And I also think it's extremely important to, golden rule here, stimulate, don't always annihilate. So doing your best but with good form is also very important. I did find that hanging onto something slightly wider seemed to help stimulate my wrists even further. Now if I was just beginning, I don't think it would matter the size of the pole or bar or whatever I was hanging on. I don't think it would matter. Just hanging on for those drop sets seemed to stimulate the wrist at first, but to push it a little bit further beyond for this week, it seemed like those wider grips, especially the tree branch grips, the tree hugs, etc., seem to really help stimulate the wrists even further. So that's where we are. With that being said, I'd like to give another shout out to AG1 by Athletic Greens for sponsoring this video and sending me this product. If you're interested in trying this out, you can use my link in the description. I'll also leave one in the comments section. If you use my link, you'll get the free year supply of vitamin D and K2, as well as 5 travel packs of AG1. I don't know how long that deal is going to run for, so yeah, check out my link if you're interested. With that being said, I want to thank you all so much for watching this video, and stay tuned for next week, because we may have been working the wrist and the hand these last couple of weeks, but as suggested by you guys, coming up shortly, we're going to be working the fist. It's going to be an interesting video, so stay tuned for that. Don't forget to subscribe, turn those notifications on. I hope you all have a great day. Peace. I will see you all in the next video.